What is going on, everybody? It's time. We're back again. Last time, oil pan. This time, front and rear cover. Let's go! So before we actually get these things installed, we need to replace front and rear seals in these bad boys. So I'll move it to the other table because this one is about to just collapse, you know? So let's get it over there. So for starters here, the rear cover looks pretty darn easy because it's got these little spots where you can stick a screwdriver. So let's just see how easy it really is. Yeah, that's doing nothing at all. All right, so now we switch to plan B. So I'm just gonna see if it'll come out this way. This obviously isn't the best way. This is the back side, by the way. But yeah, we're just kinda gonna see what happens if I smack this thing with a hammer. Oh no! Well, that wasn't too hard, but it knocked over a whole bunch of stuff, so that's great. Here is our rear main seal. I really gotta learn to put the lid on stuff. You'll see what this is for in the future. So we're also just really quickly going to be wiping this guy down while it's out, while the seal is out. Here we have our new Felpro rear main seal. Sometimes they say something like outside on them, like the old one here. Outside. But this one doesn't seem to have any sort of marking, so I'm just kind of going to guess on which side is the outside. I think it's going to be this side, so we can kind of get it started in there. And then there is lots of ways that people like to do seals, and I've tried millions of them, but as far as right now goes, all I have is a hammer. You know, nothing really to keep this nice and flat as we're going in with it, because the ideal way is to get like a cup or something, goes over top of this, and you can hammer it down and it just stops when it stops, and it's nice and even. But we're probably gonna have to like start here and then a little bit over there, so now we're like cockeyed. This part is like in, but this side isn't. And then just keep chasing it around and around until it's actually, you know, done. So let's start with that. There we go. That wasn't too hard. All right, now on to the front cover. For this one, I'm gonna be trying similar techniques, but instead I'm gonna try a pry bar just to pop that seal out of there. Should be decently doable. I guess we'll see. The trick is hooking it in the right spot because you don't wanna hook. We want to hook it like right here, not right here, because that won't do anything, obviously. So let's get going on that. Oh no. Well, yeah, so I did exactly what I told you guys not to do and totally took a big chunk out of it, which kind of sucks. And yeah, so we're going to pop this seal in here, the new one. And then I think I'm going to put a little bit of silicone on the back of this just to make sure it doesn't leak. But like, it's not really that big of a deal, I guess. It should be fine. Maybe I'll clean it up with some sandpaper. Just make sure it's not sharp in any spots. But yeah, well, that's pretty disappointing. But I fixed it up with some sandpaper. Now it's a little bit more smooth. So we can get that seal pressed in. It should still go in fine. If it had broken quite a bit more, like from here to there, then that would be, this whole thing would just be junk at that point. But I think it should be good based on how much it did break. So similar techniques here, but I'm going to use the old seal, kind of put it on top as my seal driver in this case, and we're gonna keep this plastic in too, so that way we can tap on the old seal and not hurt the new one, you know what I'm saying? Kind of trying to be gentle in this spot since it doesn't have any land to back onto, you know what I'm saying? You know, there's nothing for this seal to bottom out on this side, so that's why I'm trying to be careful in that area. But yeah, just a little bit more and she'll be home. There we go. Now it's perfectly flush all the way around. That's what we want. As far as this incident goes, I'm just going to be putting a tiny little bit of silicone down there. There we go. Nothing crazy, just a little bit. Just to make sure everybody's happy. There we go. Now we can work on getting these guys installed. Well, that didn't exactly go to plan, but whatever. It's going to be fine, I think. Hopefully. Anyway, let's get this thing flipped over and then get the front cover installed. So as far as everything goes back here, we are basically all done. Our oil pump pickup is nicely installed. Oil pump is nicely installed if you watched last episode. And same with our timing set and everything like that. What I might do real quick is just put a little bit of break-in oil around this chain. Just make sure that it's kind of happy because it is also brand new. So I'll just put a little bit there. Then it can kind of work its way down as she goes, because this thing's probably going to be sitting for a little while before she starts up for the first time. So it won't hurt, and it's, you know, worst case, all the oil's just going to go down into the oil pan anyway, so it'll be fine. So we now have our front cover gasket. So one thing that's super important here is that we silicone these spots right here and right here, where the front cover gasket meets the oil pan gasket, just to make sure that nothing is gonna leak at all. So let me get that done real quick. Okay, so our silicone is on, so we can plop our gasket kind of sort of in there. And then the actual front cover, I'm just gonna align 2 of these bolts to start with. Front cover gasket does kind of like to squeeze out a little bit, so that's why I'm putting some bolts in here to stop it from doing that. Okay, now that that's kind of lined up as far as front cover gasket goes, I'm gonna put 1 or 2 more at the top just to make sure that the top doesn't come out like this, like it's doing right now. I'm not going to tighten any of these yet because I want to put the 2 in the bottom of the oil pan right here and right here first before we do that stuff. Okay, so we got these 2 bolts started now. Now we can tighten them down. There we go. Now that should have centered most of our other bolt holes, which is also nice. Once again, those 2 are going to be 18 foot-pounds, along with the rest of the bolts. There we go. Everybody's torqued and all happy now. There is lots of things that people like to do for centering this front cover because there is a little bit of movement when it comes to these bolt holes, but like, it isn't really that big of a deal. Well, I guess we'll find out. If this thing leaks, then it's a big deal. But if it doesn't leak, then it's not a big deal. Sound like a plan? Hopefully. And of course, we're gonna wipe off the excess silicone. This is gonna be a nice clean build, all right? Oh yeah, nice and clean. Next up is the rear cover. And for this, I think I might actually take it off the stand and just kind of hang it on the hoist because it's gonna make it a lot easier for a multitude of reasons. So I'll get that done real quick. All right, so at this point I have our engine just nicely kind of sitting on this tire partially. So that will kind of help it from, not putting too much stress on the engine hoist because that hoist is kind of sketchy. And when we go to pull the motor out of the car, I don't know if I'm gonna use it. I don't know, it's kind of making me nervous, but whatever, it's fine, okay? Anyways, first thing on the list, we're gonna try and clean up this sealing area because it's been quite a while since I've just kind of done a quick basic clean on it. Paper towel and brake clean, same as always. Okay, there, I kind of used a microfiber instead of a rag because it had a whole lot less lint. This is also the last time we're going to see that Chupacabra logo, which is rather depressing, but hey, it's for a good cause, all right? So, first we need to put something in this hole. Do you know what it is? If you said the oil barbell, you are correct. So we're just really quickly going to kind of just dunk this thing in the oil just to help it kind of seal in there real nicely. We don't cut any O-rings because that would be bad. This is responsible for a lot of oil pressure in these things. So to explain this properly, we kind of need to look at the side of the block here. This little tube looking thing that's cast into the block goes all the way from that oil barbell all the way to where the oil pump is. So the oil pump pumps oil through here, and then you can see these 2 vertical ones, right? They go straight to the filter. So the barbell kind of sits right here in between these 2. So when the oil comes up, hits that barbell, says, oh no, I have to go down. And the filter does its filtering. And if you have an oil cooler, then it would go out to the oil cooler there as well. And then it would come back up and then feed everything else that it feeds after that. But anyways, let's get our rear main cover gasket and cover all installed on the back now. Okay, so same thing as last time. We are going to be needing some silicone in these 2 little pockets here. So we'll get that on there real quick. Next we will just kind of plop our front cover gasket in place while spreading that silicone around a little bit. And then we'll grab the rear cover itself. And as we push this on, it's kind of going to push out our little ring here that helps the seal go on properly. And that is what it's designed to do. There, just kind of like that. And we're just going to make sure all our bolt holes look like they're lined up. And they do, so we'll grab a couple bolts. Just start them to keep everything centered. Same as the front cover. The seal being around the back of the crankshaft here will also help quite a bit with keeping everything all centered. I'm kind of going to be doing the same strategies before with these 2 really long bolts. And remember, these are 106 inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. You would absolutely obliterate them if you did foot-pounds, okay? So don't be doing that. Well, we're running into issues here, unfortunately, fairly large ones. This hole in the oil pan gasket doesn't quite line up with the hole on the oil pan right now. You can see that bolt doesn't really want to go through. Like it's a little off center. So at this point, I'm pretty sure I have to pull the oil pan back off, which sucks. But whatever, we do what we gotta do, I guess. So I'll lift this thing up and then get the oil pan back off and then re-silicone everything again. And then yeah, hopefully the front silicone hasn't dried already. Okay, good news, the front silicone was not dry. Sweet. So at this point, I'm gonna get my rear cover on, and then we're gonna put this thing back on the stand, flip it upside down so we can align the oil pan gasket properly this time. Which sounds like it's gonna be nice and easy. This is why proper alignment of these things is so important. You can see how much it moves right now. The seal on here being on does help it to stay like kind of up and down centered, but we still have that amount of movement that it can go around the seal. So before we tighten these on, we got to make sure that they are perfect. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully you do. And that's feeling pretty darn good. The silicone will kind of help to take out some of that gap if there is any, but it feels like I kind of just, felt it with my finger, moved it close enough to where it was. And yeah. Okay, now let's get this thing back on a stand and ready for the oil pan again. So looking back, I should have done the oil pan after front and rear cover were done anyway, but I guess here we are, learning things the hard way once again. So I'm just gonna quickly wipe off my oil pan gasket. There is still some silicone on it from our failed attempts. And if you look on here too, there is little like squares where the silicone is supposed to go, which is kind of nice. That kind of helps to like hold it and everything. So that's also kind of cool. So now we're just going to be applying silicone to the same spots that we did last time. And then plop our gasket down. Okay. Now if we grab the pan, I'm just going to start every single bolt by hand, starting with these two back ones that I could not get in before. Look at there, all of our bolts are now happy in their homes, so we can start kind of from the inside, work our way out with just tightening them with the impact, like not crazy, just getting them started. All right, now everybody gets 18 foot-pounds except for the two guys at the back. You know what I'm saying? I gotta quit saying you know what I'm saying, because one time you're just not gonna know what I'm saying and then it's not gonna make any sense. But this time you know what I'm saying because I've said it like 12 times, Back ones, 106 inch-pounds. You do 106 foot-pounds, the world will end. Okay. At this point, we should have basically a nice and sealed motor, hopefully. So with that, our motor is basically sealed up as far as bottom and front and back go. Now we just need to get to the top stuff. And that's what this is all about. So come over here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So these are a set of BTR LS7 Delphi lifters. They had pretty decent reviews and I got them on Summit. And it came with stickers, of course. I took this one and I put it on my laptop. I'll put a picture in here to show you what it looks like, but I'm not sure where I want to put these yet, but we'll find out. Always a great selling point. Summit's really good for stickers. That's sick. And they also came with a set of BTR lifter guides or lifter trays. These are necessity. Very, very important for keeping the lifters nice and straight, because if they turn, then they will eat your camshaft and destroy everything, which is just great. So anyway, this is a big tub of mineral spirits, the stuff that I knocked over earlier when we were doing the rear main seal. Oh no! But yeah, I had them soaking in here, and it's basically just gonna get all that packing grease that they put on these things off of them. And I soaked them in there kind of just overnight. and they are looking nice and clean now, and all the rollers spin excellently. So before we put these in, we're actually not going to soak them. So I've done a ton of research on this side of things. So I know you're probably thinking, what are you doing, man? You gotta soak them, right? Well, you'd think so. I don't know. Okay, there's so many people saying so many different things as far as should you versus should you not soak lifters. So I'm just gonna take everything that I learned over the last couple days and put it all into one. So we're gonna let them soak for like maybe 10 minutes. Then we're gonna throw them all in the guides and get them in there. The reason why you would not wanna soak them is because this little hole right here basically feeds the lifter oil from its oil valley, and it doesn't really matter which way it points because this whole area from here to there is all going to be filled with oil anyways. But it's always a good practice to point them the same direction. Anyways, what I'm getting at here is sometimes when you soak them, this can be so full that it will actually act as a solid lifter, where these are not supposed to be solid lifters. These are hydraulic. So what'll happen is these will be all solid and full and pumped up full of oil, and then it'll actually hold your valve open a little bit because you're supposed to have a little bit of preload on here. I believe these ones do have a spec. I can't remember what it is at the moment, but we'll also be figuring that out when we get the rockers and push rods installed and measured and everything like that after the heads are on. So for starters, we're just going to be soaking these for like 10 minutes and then calling it good enough. I'm going to be using the same break-in oil on these guys just because it'll be very nice for the rollers to make sure that they are nice and healthy on first startup as well. Alright, so we'll just kind of let these sit for 10 minutes, and in the meantime, we might as well bump some tunes in this old rig since it's been a while. Alright, so it's been about 10 minutes now. Hope you enjoyed that little boom boom action. So I got 4 of them all put in here. These are done soaking now, by the way. They have a little notch like this, and I put all the oil holes facing this way on that notch. I'll show you why in just a second. So now when we're going ahead and getting these installed, the notch goes at the top, and if we put all the oil holes facing this way, that's the direction of oil flow in the block, so it'll be able to fill them up real nice. Allegedly, according to what some people say online. Let's just get these puppies on in here right now. Put our bolt back in there for security. All right, and on to the next set. All right, so all of our lifters are installed now, and one thing to point out too is that these bolts are very special. So they do actually have a little bit of a shoulder on them right there to stop you from crushing the lifter tray. So yeah, the shoulder will bottom out before the tray gets too tight and explodes. So that's I guess a thing to watch out for if you have plastic trays like these. But yeah, these torque spec are 89 inch-pounds to 106 inch-pounds, so we'll just go with 106. The heads will also hold all this together anyways, so it's not like they're going to go anywhere, but we'll still torque them anyways. Alrighty, so our lifters are now fully installed. Next up, I guess, is literally just heads, which is crazy because we're moving pretty darn quick now. But I would like to do one thing before we get the heads on, and I'll show you that in just a sec. So before we get the heads installed, we kind of want to clean out the bolt holes that the head bolts go into. So you can either go online and buy a really expensive tap for every single head bolt. Well, you don't need multiple taps, but you know what I mean. You buy a tap to clean the threads, right? And it's special and long and weird. Or you can do what I'm gonna do, and I'll show you that right now. So we're gonna be grabbing some old head bolts, one long one and one short one. And what we're gonna do is take the angle grinder and cut a couple slits in the threads, and then kind of bevel the front part of it so that we can nicely use these as thread chasers. So I will get that done, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're all done. So So here's one, we just kind of cut a nice little slit in there, and now that should let us clean out the head bolt holes pretty easy. The reason why we picked a long one and a short one is because we want to still get the short bolt holes as well. I don't know if it makes that much of a difference. They should be the exact same thread pitch. Yeah, okay, so maybe you can only really, you might only need one, but still, we got two now. So now we'll get all these head bolt holes all chased with our little thread chasers. I'm not gonna do the little ones because they're gonna be fine. They look great already, but I'm just gonna make very sure that we do the big ones. There's head bolt hole number one, full of rust and stuff. Glad we did this now. So I'll kind of go over each one like a couple times maybe, just to make sure that there's nothing in there anymore. You can see how gross some of these holes actually are. Definitely be taking a blowgun to most of these, well, all of these when we're all done, and see how much junk comes out, see how clean we can get them. Anyway, so I'll blow all these out, and then I'll do the other side, same thing, chase and blow, and then come back when I'm all done. Alrighty, at this point, we're pretty much ready to throw heads on. So I got all these bolt holes cleaned out. They were actually really fucking bad. I ended up making like 4 of these thread chaser deals out of the old bolts because I just kept rounding the edges of them, and you know, if they're not sharp, then they can't really do their job. So I made a bunch of them, and I got a shit ton of old head bolts laying around, so I thought, wow, might as well give them a new life, you know? Anyways, I also cleaned off all these gasket surfaces real quick, just with brake clean and a rag. Make sure there's nothing on there for our head gaskets. Anyway, speaking of head gaskets, let's go grab them puppies. So if you remember the parts video, here are our head gaskets. These are graphite head gaskets, and the reason why I picked these ones is because we didn't take this thing to a machine shop. You know, these surfaces are still maybe not quite 100% flat, and they got some pitting in a couple spots from coolant ports and whatnot, but this will help to take out those you know, high and low spots, the very, very micro tiny ones. Give us the best chance of a good seal on these things, as opposed to the multi-layered steel kind. So these are labeled with front on them. So let's get them all installed. I'm not sure if it matters which way they go. I don't think it does. Okay, well, they only do go one way. Alrighty, gaskets are on. They fit, which is another good thing. Now let's grab our heads. Holy shit, it's really happening. Alrighty, here's one head. Gonna make sure we get them dowels lined up. There we go. And I'm just gonna stick one of the tiny bolts in the top here. Hand tighten it so it doesn't go anywhere. Alrighty, now I'll grab the one for the other side. Now for being aluminum heads, these things are really not that light. There we go. All right, we got action here. Okay, now I'm gonna take all these rockers off, and then we can start putting head bolts in this thing. Alrighty, so now it's time to bust open our head bolt packaging. We're gonna start with the little tiny ones. Or well, not little tiny, but you know, smaller ones. And they go in these 2 holes right here. Then the rest of the big ones. So I made this little card as far as like the order of which we tighten everything. All the top bolts are the little tiny guys at the top there, and then these ones are all of our main ones. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we're going to be torquing them our first pass to 30 Newton meters or 22 foot-pounds. So we'll start with number 1. Alrighty, now with everybody torqued to 30 Newton meters, we're going to now do 90 degrees. Oh, okay, that's the last one. There we go. Now we can just run all our little tiny baby bolts in there. So for all these tiny ones, they also take 30 Newton meters or 22 foot-pounds. So let's get started on those as well. There we go. And I actually just realized an error that I made with this. So these 2 shorter ones on the outside are only supposed to be 50 degrees. So whoops, but I'm thinking that we're just gonna leave them in there, because if we try to take those out and put them back in and torque them up again, you know, they're single time use, they could just fucking break and then I'm screwed, right? So they didn't break, we're just gonna leave them there, and then we'll do that side the right way. Sound like a plan? Hopefully. I hope it's fine, I don't know, we'll find out. And the exact same process for this side. This time we're gonna torque those two bolts to 50 degrees, not 90 though, because that's not good. I hope it doesn't break, like while I'm driving or something. That would not be good. For obvious reasons, but anyway, let's get these boys shoved in here. Okay, now we can torque everything in sequence to 30, just like we did on the other side. There we go. And with that, we got lifters and heads all installed in our motor here. So this thing is getting close. I cannot wait. I'm so excited. So next time, I'm thinking we switch gears a little bit, and this thing might not have a motor anymore, but you'll see. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you made it this far, you might as well. But yeah, we'll catch you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.